But one more thing I do want to say about you and your pop, which is I came up in the magazine era, the wrestling magazine era, you know, and I would read these magazines from when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. I was fascinated by the magazines. I would make my mom take me, and there were 2 different stores or 3 that might have them, and I had to get all of them, and I wouldn't subscribe. I loved the ritual. They wouldn't let me, but I also loved going to the store and getting those magazines and then reading them. The thing is, the way those writers made up their stories and built up those wrestlers.
Yep.
And so someday I really want to make a documentary about this, but then I would go visit a family member somewhere because this is before, for people who are listening and don't know, you know, wrestling wasn't national. So NWA wrestlers wrestled in a certain territory and AWA wrestlers wrestled in a certain territory. But inevitably, because of how these people were built up, when you saw them, you were slightly disappointed almost all the time.
Of course.
You know, when you saw Abdullah the Butcher on the cover of a magazine bleeding, he seemed like the scariest guy in the world. And when you saw him, it was a little goofy.
Yeah.
Your father was the only one who not only lived up to it, but transcended it.
Oh,
you know?
great.
I would see your dad, and I would watch him on the stick, because there was no YouTube, there was no internet. You had to go and put the ears on a television and get it on UHF to try to find a Dusty Rhodes match. And he was everything that you hoped he'd be when you would read about him in the magazines. And Bruno will always be, as a kid growing up here, you know, my favorite wrestler. But right behind him always was Dusty, because he was even better than how they wrote about him. You know, that's why, to me, when he came here and they didn't put the belt on him, I always thought it was a crying shame.
Speaking of, where's the belt? Let's fly her in. I think that's so crazy that, you know, that story of him not winning the belt in 1978 was Superstar and everything, and it's this one. It's this WWE Championship, and then the beauty of being able to come in and do it myself. You gotta get a hold of it.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
You gotta get a hold of it.
Yeah, that's great, man.
This is and your lineage in terms of you being a Bruno guy.
Yeah, no, this is unbelievable.
His DNA is in that. In a sense, the WWE, the WWF Championship, what it would become.
Yeah, Buddy Rogers to Bruno.
That's right.
Ivan Koloff.
The original Nature Boy.
Yeah,
you know the full.
I could give you the whole run.
Yeah.
I could give you the run up to a certain
So
point.
where Ivan Koloff, who's next?
After Ivan Koloff, Pedro Morales, right?
That's right.
And then
yes,
after
sir.
Pedro, I think Stan Stasiak for 7 days or something like that.
I know, and Stasiak, thank you, sir, always got the rap of being the transitional.
Because he gets you back to Bruno.
Yes, he got you back.
And
indeed.
then Bruno to Superstar Billy Graham with his foot on the rope, which killed me on the cover of the magazines.
Yeah.
And then to Bob Backlund, and then the Sheik, right? I think that's the run.
So 2 questions, because
I think,
I will fact check. Did you just do it in real time? Yeah. That is the run too.
Did I get the run right? See, it's not as good.
A round of
the
applause for
now.
getting the run right. Oh, I was just gonna. That run was gonna be right no matter what.
No, totally. We would have fixed it. But the thing is, it's really easy to do that in the internet era. That's the thing. The internet's taken away being able to name all the bass players in heavy metal bands from the new wave of British heavy metal. No one cares. You could just look it up. But I have had that WWE thing memorized my whole life.
That's a very special run. You mentioned, I want to ask you 2 questions, just following up on what you said. You said magazines. This is the Bill Apter era of our industry. What shout out to Bill. He's a wild one. But what magazine was your main magazine? PWI?
I like The Wrestler.
The Wrestler, yeah.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, and Inside Wrestling.
Yeah.
Those 3 were all, you had to get.
Yeah.
It got a little weird when the Apartment House Wrestling started becoming a big part in it.
Yeah, it was a big part of the magazines, yeah.
And
for those who don't know what that is, we do have the internet to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there are like sites dedicated to that. And it's funny because like at a certain age, I definitely didn't want that. And then at another age, it was like, well, this is okay,
Yeah, sure.
But, and I really loved the writing. It's funny because even as a kid, and I think it's one of the great things about the Kayfabe era, is there was no one understood that there was something as someone who was smartened up, right?
Yeah.
Or someone who was a mark. These weren't terms really that kids watching wrestling knew. But if you were like really interested in this stuff and you'd read these magazines and then you'd watch the shows, you would start to put together that this isn't exactly what you're, even at a young age.
Sure.
And part of the fun of it was thinking about all of that stuff. I mean, for me, what you guys have brought it back to now has reintroduced all the best elements of that folded into this sports entertainment era.
Amazing.
Well, look at the I mean, you know, the promo that Heyman did on you when he talked about Dusty.
Going into WrestleMania 39.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Was, I think, in the modern era, the best, most emotional and incredible moment. Because he used so much real information.
Yeah.
That very legacy you were just talking about. His genuine fondness for you, his place in your life.
Sure.
All the stuff the audience brings in.
Yeah.
And as a professional storyteller, watching it, I could watch it both like as someone who crafts stories and respect it.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't emotionally moved by it. It worked. It worked on me. And I know if it worked on me, it worked on everybody. And it's why when you didn't win, it guaranteed another year of engagement, you know? And we were, my partner, the guy I make everything with, we were deep in making the show Billions at the time. And I wasn't always watching wrestling. You know, you go, if you're a lifelong fan, there are periods of time you're watching closely. Yeah. There are periods of time you're following it, but you're not watching as closely. You know what's going on. Dan Soder and I always talk about it. He's a lifelong wrestling guy. Everyone always mentions Dan to me, who was on the show and is a great comedian and a lifelong wrestling fanatic. But two things that brought me back. First, Becky Lynch brought me back to wrestling when she really started making her run as the man. I thought it was so awesome that there was a woman doing this. And I remember getting my wife, Amy, and we would watch. Yeah. And I loved watching that run. And ended up becoming friends with Becky. She came on the show. And the other thing that brought me all the way back was your run, man. Those 2 years, I would watch all the time. I would follow it because the fact that your pop didn't get it, and that it took that extra year after you left, it was great because it worked as a business story. It worked as a life story. It worked as a wrestling story. And it's what you all do so well. It's what I admire so much about what all of you do.
You mentioned Becky. I said this, I crashed an interview of hers this morning.
Oh, cool.
We were over doing just different radio for just WrestleMania coming up, and I saw her. So I came and crashed it. We'll find out if she was mad about that later or not. She seemed cool. But somebody asked me to describe her. Yeah. One of the most fraudulent terms you'll hear, not so much internally here, but you'll see some of the more people who cover us, they'll talk about the word organic. Yeah. And almost everything in wrestling isn't organic and shouldn't be because we're writing this narrative. Shouldn't be like we're writing this. The Man Run is probably the best example of an organic run that anytime when I was doing my executive gig or when I'm at the Nightmare Factory, whatever it may be, when a girl asks me what she can do to be the best in the women's division, I always tell them, don't be the best in the women's division. Don't be the best in the men's division. Just be the best.
Be the best in the world.
In the case of Becky, be the man. Whatever it is, like be the best, because that brings it up naturally.
That was what was so great about that run. Yeah. When she headlined Mania, it was like, that woman is right now the best professional wrestler in the world. Yeah. It felt like that. It felt galvanizing. It felt like, and not for reasons that were separate, not because the culture she just was, because like you're saying, she tapped into that thing where who she was inside was who she was outside on that run. And it was an incredible thing it was really an incredible thing to see.